Hello. Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. So today we'll be talking about how I chose my favorite camera for this channel and my other channels. If you know me, my name is Uncle Kevin. I'm a YouTuber. I have a reaction channel, Uncle Kevin Reacts. You can go check me out on that channel. I've been able to amass over 1 million views on YouTube in the past chunk of time. And in order to grow the channel, I relied a lot on my cameras, because when you're doing reaction videos, we found that the formula is you have to put out a lot of content. And in order to do that, you need a super reliable camera that constantly is working, that doesn't heat up and doesn't shut off, and gives you the ability to create a lot of videos in a short space of time without having to stand up and go do this and that. So today we'll be talking about how I came to choose this camera and make it my main camera.
Alpha.
So the first point, how I chose it, is it was all because of the hype. I remember, I think it was around April when I first heard about the Sony A7IV. I walked into my local local dealer, and I was looking for the Sony A6400 because back then I had an A6400 and the Canon M50. So what I was trying to do is to have the same provider, same brand to provide for my equipment. So I was trying to buy another Sony A6400. And then when I walked in, the guy proposed to me that, oh, they didn't have the A6400, but why not get the A7IV? And the price range, you don't know. The A6400 costed like 1,300, and then the A7IV costed like 3,200. And the one that I got had the kit lens, which would have put it up to like 3,600 Canadian. And what I did, and this is the one thing that I learned growing up, is you don't make a decision impulsively. You have to go away, go think about it. And that's what I did. I walked away. I didn't buy it. In my head, I was still convinced that what I needed to get was an A6400. And then I came and I started doing research on YouTube. And back then, the hype around the A7IV was high. And this is a problem that I have with YouTube influencers. You know, a lot of people are sponsored by these brands. A lot of people are sponsored by Sony. They're sponsored by these camera companies, to the point that they don't really give you an objective view of what you're getting yourself into, right? So it's more of, hey, get this new thing, is the best thing. And why I say this is because in that time period, everybody was saying you should get the A7IV. And then when the ZV-10 came out, it's like, you should get the ZV-10, the ZV-1, you should get the ZV-1. Right now, recently, I know Sony just released the A7R Mark V, which I think, because it's mainly niched down to photographers, and I'm not a photographer per se. Like, my main duty is not as a photographer. The algorithm doesn't really serve me that content, but you start seeing all those videos popping up. You should get the A7R5, and you're like, wait a minute, which camera should I actually get, and which camera does the best thing for me? And the one thing that I've learned is you actually have to know what you need. You have to know what your needs are. You have to know what you require for the work that you want to get done, and then that helps you find the right camera for yourself. I'll admit one thing. When I was looking for the camera, I didn't know the difference between an AP. I didn't know the difference between an APS-C and a full frame. But the very first day that I made a video with the Sony A7IV and the A6400 side by side, I could tell the difference in resolution. The full frame just looked better. The A7IV just looked better. So for me, buying the A7IV, you know, the cognitive dissonance that you get after making such a big purchase was put away, and I was more satisfied with the camera that I had and the quality that the A7IV was putting out, to the point that I even ended up selling off my A6400 to try and fund getting an A7C so that I could just have 2 full frames. I couldn't afford the second A7IV, but I knew that if I saved enough, I could be able to get the A7C, hopefully to give me something slightly close in terms of image quality to the A7IV. But that was I was completely wrong, because for me, I think I had a lot of challenges as well, right? Because I couldn't afford the lenses, so I couldn't afford having 2 full frame lenses and buy 2 full frame cameras at the same time, because you are looking at a $10,000 budget just to get those 4 things. So at that period of time, the focus was, okay, I'll just get the camera bodies and then I'll use the kit lens and then buy 1 full frame, and then that just created a whole lot of problems. So I will not blame the A7C for my problems that I had, because I couldn't afford quality glass for it. But I'll say that there's a difference. You notice it out of the box. There's a big difference. The next point is, so in my decision making as well, back then I had a little bit of savings in my account, and I was like, oh, I want to have a camera that I can use for professional work and YouTube work, because my YouTube channel wasn't growing to this day. I don't know why it doesn't grow, but it wasn't growing. So I was like, oh, I might as well get a camera that I can use professionally for professional work and charge people and make money that way, and not solemnly rely on YouTube to make money. So that's the decision making for me. What pushed me over to getting the A7IV over the A6400 was just the hype behind the camera. It was also the cost benefit, and also the look into getting a camera that you can use for photography and the camera that you can use to make video at a professional level and look professional. It's like every time that I show up with an A6400, people will be like, ooh, okay, you know what you're doing. And then even the price range, if someone's like, oh, how much did you pay for this? And you're like, yeah, I paid almost $4,000, because it was 3.5 with the kit lens, and then when you add taxes, I think it'll go up to like 4,200. So in conversation, I'm like, yeah, I spent 4,200 for this, which just puts you on a different level. Someone's like, oh, I spent $1,000 on a camera. It's like, damn, this man invested in his business and you didn't. One thing that I will not be doing in this channel is, on this video, is giving you the technical aspects of the A7IV. There's a lot of videos where people will be like, hey, the A7IV is good for this. It has gyro data. It is this 10-bit. It is, I don't know none of that. What I know is what type of video am I getting out of this thing. And the type of video I was getting out of the A7IV was top notch for me. But the one thing that I've also gotten to learn the more that I use it is, you get to a point where you reach the limitations of a camera. You reach the limitations of what a thing can give you. One of my gripes with the A7IV is, you get, when you're shooting handheld, you have to have steady hands. Otherwise, it has the shaky image for video, which is not proper at all. Like it's humiliating, especially in professional sense, right? But other than that, I don't really have any problems with this camera. One more thing of why I like the A7IV. So the A7IV, people call it like one of the best hybrid cameras out there. And one thing that I like about it is, through this dial that you have on it, you are able to set settings for your photography and set settings for the video settings that does not affect each other. And you can have, I think, more custom things that you can do with it. And this was super different from the A7C, because the A7C, whatever you put on photo is the same for video, and it was just messed up. Like, this one saves your settings, so at any point you can switch the settings that you're using depending on what you're trying to do. And I just fell in love with that. Like, the picture profile I use for photography is different from the picture profile that I use for video. And I was just like, whoa, I was astonished and blown out by that. And just the way this thing looks, man, it just looks like a beast of a camera. I'm truly in love with the A7IV. One of the main things that I've also learned this year is gear does not matter. It doesn't matter which camera you really use. It's about knowing how to use that camera that you have. You can have the A7IV, you can have the FX9, you can have the Venus, you can have the Alexa cameras. But if you don't know how to use these things, they are useless. They are pointless to have. With the video, I've learned that lighting matters a lot. How you light a situation matters a lot. And it's learning and building a preference for yourself. I did a gig one time whereby I had to take photos. And when I was there, one of the challenges that I ran into was the issue of lighting, because they had, I believe it's tungsten lights, and then they had these warm lights. So it's cool for a movie to have that blue and teal type of vibe, but the combination of what those lights create is this ugly color that starts coming off, and you start missing out on skin tones. You start messing up with the quality of video that you can create. The room looks lit to the eye, human eye, but the camera doesn't pick that up. So now you have to know your settings. You have to know how to play with the settings within your camera. You have to know about exposure, the exposure triangle, how to get the best out of it, how to boost your ISO without bringing noise and understanding your camera body. When I'm saying gear doesn't matter, for me, gear does matter in certain instances, because in a low lit place, I think you really want a Sony. That's where it comes to shine, according to a lot of YouTubers that I've seen. But according to my own experience as well, some of the shots that I'm able to get in low lit situations. But I've been able to do these things because I took time to learn about the exposure triangle, and then I experiment with it, because it's one thing to know, it's another thing to experiment with it and just learn how these things work. The other thing that I learned is you truly get what you pay for. These cameras, this software, these technologies that we now have, it's so advanced that everybody can get something that gives you something of quality. But the more you pay, the more you get out of it, and the more simpler it is. If you have two A6400s or three A6400s, you're able to create a quality production, of like a podcast or something like that competes, especially if you know how to set it up, if you know how to light, if you have the right lenses, if you have everything set up, you can literally make better videos than people who do not know what they're doing. And if they have the FX6s or FX3s, or even myself, you probably could do better. But the thing is, that same person, if you were to give them these FX3s, FX6s, and they have that knowledge that they have, the quality of work they're able to produce will be beyond levels. So the point that I'm trying to make is gear doesn't matter. It's about your skills and tools. But gear also does matter, especially once you've acquired those skills and you know what you're trying to do. You know how to light a person. You know how to set up a situation and build a composition of work. But just don't take this and say, oh, you're saying gear does matter. The thing is, my greatest belief is that a true story triumphs everything. We sit down and watch these videos of little kids doing something, a play recorded on a phone, on an iPhone, and we love them because the story captures us, and we forgive the quality of the video that we're watching, we forgive the quality of the audio if the story is good. So as a filmmaker, the main thing is, if you have to make sure you have a great story, and then everything else is just a caveat that you add on top of what you're making. I'll always advocate for having a great story of valuable information, and then having all these things add to make it a little bit better, everything is just to have it a little bit better. Because when you make anything a little bit better, it helps you compete. We are on this platform, YouTube, with people who, if you look at Mr. Beast, the type of cameras that they use, and you're competing with those people for attention of people. So at the end of the day, the goal is just to be a little bit better, With that said, my friends, I thank you for being with me today. I'll see you in the next one.